And welcome everyone to the Triple Threat Talk March Madness Special.
As per the bulletin board.
Keep it tuned in here to Triple Threat Talk on the weekly episodes. We will be your headquarters for all things March Madness. And we're just going to delve right into the bracket here. Big B, go ahead and pop that bracket up there.
Bracket.
So as you can see, the four number one seeds were, in fact, UK being the number one overall, Michigan State, Syracuse, and North Carolina. Michigan State squeaking in after instead of Missouri and Kansas. So that was definitely a surprise, I think, to most people. But they definitely deserve it nonetheless. What we're going to do, how we're going to do this basically, is we each fill out a bracket and some of the key games that we disagreed on in the first and second rounds to set up some potential interesting matches, and then we're going to run through our Elite Eight, and hopefully we can get you knowing a couple things that you didn't know, give you some good knowledge about March Madness.
Filling out your own bracket.
Fill out your own bracket. Definitely get involved with it. It's a very fun time of the year. Big B, go ahead and start us off with one of the games that you had differently.
Okay, well, the first game I could say that you start on my bracket here was UNLV in Colorado.
Okay.
And I had Colorado.
Right.
And I believe you both had UNLV?
That's correct.
That is correct.
Okay.
Fire away, sir.
So fire away.
Well, you know, I don't know a lot about either team, Colorado or UNLV. But when you do a bracket and you do March Madness, there's always a potential upset somewhere. And I think Colorado's a strong enough team to pull the upset on UNLV. That's just me. You gotta call. I like just calling upsets because upsets do happen.
And that is right. Any given team, any one of these teams can beat another team.
Unless it's a 16-1, it's not going to happen.
Well, I mean, it's going to happen one day.
Well, it hasn't happened yet.
It's going to happen this year.
No.
Colorado.
I don't know. My money's on UNC Asheville.
UNLV was the beat stick of some of the teams that did get quality wins over them just offhand. Wichita State did get a win on them, 89-70, and San Diego State University did get a win, 69-67 over them. So UNLV can be beat, but they're usually, whenever they get beat, they're going to be beat by a higher team, I think, than a team out of a Midwest conference like Colorado. I think the matchups are there, but Colorado, how they finish games worries me. It's the same thing with Davidson down the list at U of L. The way they finish games definitely gives me pause for concern a little bit there. How about you, Postmaster? You got any words to add to that?
Well, I mean, UNLV is a very good team. They have with Lon Kruger. He's a very good coach. Louisville's played him like 4 straight years up before this year, and every year it's been one whale of a game, back and forth. They're a high moving offense. I think Colorado's not really a high, offense. They like to kind of slow it down, play that zone, play the set offense as it were. I think UNLV is going to try to speed them up, and I think in the process they're going to be able to capitalize, and that's why I don't see Colorado picking up the win, but I do see a little up in that same region. I see an 8-9 game that has sparked our interest because me and the Big B here picked Connecticut in the Connecticut-Iowa State game. If you ask me personally, this game, take the seeds away. This is an evenly matched game. This is
8-9 is as close as it's going to get.
This is probably one of the best first day games that is going to be, to be able to watch. So I mean, if you want to see a good game, I think this is going to be a good quality close game. I think UConn. I know Iowa State has beaten Kansas, and they've beaten Kansas State.
Kansas and Baylor.
Yeah, they beat Baylor. So, I mean, they got a lot of good wins. I realize that. But it seems like to me UConn has Coach Calhoun back. I know they didn't win the Big East tournament, but they did, make a little bit of a run in the tournament. They seem to be playing a lot better than they were earlier in the year. Yeah. Shabazz Napier is, looking good. So that's why I think UConn. What do you think?
I agree with that. I mean, they're always a powerhouse in the Big East. Even though they kind of struggled in the beginning of the year,
absolutely.
They got their act together, and they should bounce back and they should play well in this tournament. especially there was a point I know in the season Jim Calhoun was absent, and,
Right,
it showed because they got blown out the game.
Louisville trounced them.
Yeah.
It was ugly.
So as long as Jim Calhoun's at the helm and they're playing well the way they're supposed to be playing, because UConn's always a powerhouse in college basketball, they should do fine.
Right, absolutely. So what are your concerns, or what are your reasonings for this upset?
I think Iowa State has everything. The way that they played out the Big 12, the quality wins that Iowa State has are better than the quality wins that UConn has. And what that tells me is that this is ripe for not even an upset,
It's
really,
not an
because
upset, no.
Iowa is the higher seed there. If you look at the game in terms of conference, I can see where people might think it's an upset. If this was the Big East from last year, for sure. To me, UConn is exhibiting all the problems of a team post-Kemba Walker that you could possibly imagine. And it's one of those things where they haven't figured out whether Jeremy Napier, Shabazz Napier, or Jeremy Lamb is going to be their number one guy. And it's one of those things that you can tell as the season goes on and as they play. And like you said, when Coach Calhoun was suspended and then absent for quite some time this season, they definitely struggled. When he's on the court, they do a little bit better, and the troops can rally, but they can also fall apart just as easily.
Right.
And when you look at some of the RPI in this game is as close as the 8 and 9's got.
Right.
It is one away, 33 for Iowa State and 32 for Connecticut. And just to see what I mean, another 8-9 matchup, Memphis and St. Louis. Memphis has a 26 RPI, and St. Louis has a 30 RPI. So that was as close as they got for Iowa State and Connecticut. It just seems to me like the mood is right for Iowa State to be able to come up and beat UConn in that first early round.
Right, and how quickly we forget, UConn won the whole thing last year, so they're a 9 seed now.
Right, so you never know. Another game up in that area that it looks like that me and you have a similar liking to is the Shocker versus Shaka matchup, as the Wichita State Shockers face Shaka Smart and the Virginia Commonwealth Rams, not to be confused with the St. Louis Lambs.
That's another topic entirely.
But so I think Wichita State is playing absolutely phenomenal ball. I know they play in the Missouri Valley Conference. VCU plays in the Colonial Athletic Conference. So you're talking about two mid-major schools. Wichita State being a 5, VCU being a 12. Wichita State has been highly regarded all year long. Virginia Commonwealth has been right there. I mean, they were ranked. They won their tournament. He's a very good coach, Shaka Smart. I mean, obviously, since how they made the Final Four last year.
Big shocker last year.
I don't foresee him being at Virginia Commonwealth long. I foresee him moving up to a bigger, better job. Maybe I could be wrong there, but I just don't see VCU. Like I said, Wichita State's been towards the top all season, and they've only got a handful of losses, not many at all. And I don't see VCU getting it done here.
Yeah, I just think Wichita State's been a hot team all year. And as you said, they come out of the Colonial Conference, which is not a huge conference, but the way they've been playing all year. I know the 12-5 matchup is a sketchy matchup because I do have a couple 12-5 matches that are different, but I think Wichita State holds true to what people say about them, that they're a good ball team, and I think they win this one.
Absolutely.
In general, I think that it's on average 2 12s upset of 5 every year. And this I think is a prime matchup. As you all remember on the show last week, I actually said Wichita State and Colorado State were my last 4 in. Both of them made it in, as I thought that they would. Now, any other match, pretty much, except for the number 1 and the number 2 seeds, I would have gone with Wichita State here, pretty much. But VCU returns a core part of the team that was there with that remarkable run into the Final Four last year. And as PostMaster alluded to earlier, Shaka Smart, I compare Shaka Smart now to actually what Rick Pitino used to be at Kentucky. He was a master planner, or he is a master planner. And it was one of those things, if you look at Coach Pitino's record in the tournament in rounds 1, 3, and 5, it is phenomenal because he can get the job done. If you give him time outside of the day separation between the rounds every week, if the week rounds that he gets to prepare, he always had it well. He always got it pretty good. And that's exactly what BCU Shaka Smart reminds me of. It seems like he can do that. He knows what he's going up against. It is a mid-major versus mid-major, so in reality, you can throw seeds out the window in this case.
Right.
But I definitely think that this is ripe for another upset. And if I had to look at another upset, it would be, although I have Vandy, and I think everyone has Vandy except for you, and I think we'll go to that next.
Mm-hmm.
I think another one that wouldn't shock me would be Harvard over Vandy.
Harvard.
But I do have Vandy. PostMaster has Vandy. Big B, tell us why you picked Harvard.
Again, I agree with you a little bit. We'll go over more in depth this week on the show about, congratulations to Vanderbilt winning the SEC tournament over Kentucky. But as you said, Kentucky had a long, strenuous game against Florida, only winning by 3 points. They didn't really have Kentucky at full strength, so I think that's why Vanderbilt was able to take advantage and pick up the win. But the reason I have Harvard beating Vanderbilt in this game is because when do you really talk about the Ivy League? Never. You rarely ever talk about that league when it comes to NCAA tournament. But Harvard's got a lot of recognition this year for being they were ranked in the top 25 for quite some time.
They still are, actually.
Still are. Yeah. So if you're in the Ivy League and you're ranked in the top 25, you're doing something right.
Right.
So I think Harvard, again, a 12-5 matchup is a very sketchy pick. And I think the 12 comes out on top of Harvard. I think Harvard can shock some people, and I think they win this one.
I just think all the momentum for Vanderbilt for winning the SEC tournament, finally beating Kentucky in a big game. They had a great season, as it were. I mean, they were ranked in the top 25 pretty much the whole year. They were a little down there for a while Festus Azealia was hurt. But as soon as he came back, it was like they were clicking back on all cylinders. I mean, John Jenkins is one of the greatest shooters in NCAA today, and his release ratio, like from catching a ball to shooting it, is ridiculous. I mean, they timed it a couple times yesterday, and I was just like, woo-wee. I mean, it's like quick draw McGraw with the basketball.
Yeah, right.
And I just think Vanderbilt has way too many weapons. They're talented. They come from the SEC, which is obviously a tougher conference than the Ivy League, as it were.
Harvard.
Yeah, Harvard. Yeah, so I don't foresee Vanderbilt taking a loss here.
And I pretty much feel the same way about it. I think that Vanderbilt does have some momentum going in after their beating of Kentucky, and I think that they carry that through to the next round. John Jenkins is just excellent on the perimeter. If you leave him open for just a split second, he's kind of got that Deron Lamb-like quality. Deron Lamb from the University
He's
of
locked,
Kentucky.
loaded, and he's going.
And Festus Ezeli is a very good player on the outside. And also, don't underestimate the value of Ching Yang. He's a very good presence down low in the post, and I think that will definitely help with a Harvard team that definitely lacks size.
And Taylor.
Jeffrey Taylor is another phenomenal player.
Right. So moving on down there in the East a little bit, a game that I picked a little different from you guys is the Cincinnati-Texas matchup. Me being a Texas fan, outside of a U of L fan, it was kind of a shock for me to pick Cincinnati. But however, I noticed before the selections came out, Texas actually, in a lot of people's mind, weren't even in the last four in. They were actually in the last four out, first four out category. I mean, so to see them get in was kind of a surprise. I mean, Rick Barnes is doing a phenomenal coaching job down there in Texas, but Cincinnati is playing absolute. Their defense is phenomenal. I mean, the Big East championship game with them and U of L, that was a defensive struggle. And the night before, the defense they put on Syracuse was absolutely very good. And they beat Syracuse, obviously. So they had some quality wins. They did beat U of L earlier in the year. They beat Syracuse. Mick Cronin comes from that Rick Pitino style of philosophy of coaching. So I'm kind of like what you said with VCU. You give Mick Cronin a week to prepare for Texas, and I just don't see Texas pulling off the upset here. I think Cincinnati gets the win.
Here's the thing. When you have Rick Barnes, I agree that Mick Cronin is from the Rick Pitino era. I mean, he's obviously was an assistant under Rick Pitino. And I think when you compare him to Rick Barnes, I think Rick Barnes is more of a pure basketball theorist than Mick Cronin. And I think that helps with the philosophy that he brings into his coaching style. And when you look at a team like Cincinnati, who up until this year, had never even made it to the Big East semifinal round. And I got to admit, I picked Texas here. And usually I like to give a little bit more scientific reasoning on some, but just like Big B said, sometimes you just have to pick the upset.
Yeah.
And I think this one is going to be an upset because of one key thing, and that is Cincinnati has a little bit of a reputation of being a choke artist when it comes to these big time games. Mm-hmm. And I think it's one of those things that it's going to look more and more like it as the game progresses. And I have to say that Texas, I think, is going to come out firing on all cylinders, and that it's going to spook Cincinnati, and it's going to be up to somebody like Yancey Gates to try to get them on track. And Yancey Gates has been rattled before, as we saw the game that we talked about with Xavier, where he was suspended for a very short amount of time. I think it's going to show his immaturity. If Texas gets off to a good start, look for Cincinnati to get off to a rough start, pretty much.
I think they're going to be worn down from the Big East tournament, obviously playing such great defense against Syracuse and Louisville, even though they lost to Louisville. I just think Texas pulls the upset here. I think even though Cincinnati had momentum by beating Syracuse and getting to the Big East final, they're going to be worn down. And I just see Texas, like the doctor said, I think Texas just fires on all cylinders and surprises them.
Another game here in this bracket that noticed that I had a little different from you guys was the 7-10 matchup, Gonzaga, West Virginia.
Zags.
You all said Gonzaga. I said West Virginia would get the win here. I think I'm going to take my upset philosophy, and sometimes you just have to pick upsets. And I think Gonzaga's been on a little bit of a downward spiral here lately. I mean, they lost to St. Mary's a couple times. Obviously St. Mary's is not a slouch.
Right.
They're a good team.
They're a very good team.
Gonzaga, they play in the WAC, right?
WAC, yes.
Yeah, they play
that's so whack.
It's whack, man.
West Virginia obviously plays in the Big East. I know I think they're 19-11 on the year, so their record doesn't show. But they are led by Truck Bryant, a very good 19-13. Okay, thank you. They're a very good team. I mean, Bob Huggins is a very good coach. Mm-hmm. It's evident. I mean, the years that he spent at Cincinnati, and then Kansas State for a little bit, now to West Virginia. I just think here, I think size. West Virginia is they're a little bit more physical team. And it's always been proven that mark few teams at Gonzaga, when they match up against a very physical squad, a team that likes to just punch you in the mouth, they're a little soft and they can't react. And I just think West Virginia's going to get the victory.
I gotta disagree. I agree with your points that you said about the coaches and the coaching and the play style. The thing I disagree on is this is a West Virginia team that finished 9-9 in the Big East.
Yeah,
and I think that kind of is going to ring through, because basically you're looking at one more than half of your wins coming from out of conference or coming from within the conference.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Right.
And I think that hurts them, because that puts them in the middle of the pack of not historically but a currently very weak Big East. And I mean, if you look at it last year, they had 11 teams in the tournament. This year they had barely 9. If Louisville hadn't have won, the bubble would have probably bursted past 1. Louisville would have still been in, but I got to think West Virginia would have been out.
Yeah.
And I think that Louisville win definitely added a new team.
I think it wouldn't have been West Virginia that would have got the bubble burst. It would have been South Florida.
You think South Florida?
Because they're in the play-in game.
Yeah, that is
true. So it means they were one of the last 4 in. So I think if Louisville hadn't won in the Big East tournament, then I think South Florida.
You could probably make an argument for one of the two. I think maybe West Virginia would have been in that play-in game instead of South Florida for sure.
Right.
But I think when you're talking about a Big East team that's already weak, or a Big East conference that's weak this year, not historically. Like I said, there are plenty of people sometimes say, Doc, why you hate on the Big East? It's not really hating on the Big East, because I love Georgetown and I love Villanova and I like Marquette. And this time of year, I'm as true red as anybody. I will root for the Cardinals until they play UK.
Right.
And honest to God, I cheer for the state. When I put team pride aside, I want Murray State, Western Kentucky, Indiana, because they're from the area.
Well, you obviously don't Western Kentucky.
Yeah. That's true. Not this time, but these are the teams I cheer for.
Right, absolutely.
And like Kentucky, and I'm not hating on the Big East, but it's times like this, it's right in the middle. West Virginia is right in the middle of the line. I just think that a subpar West Virginia team is better than a top-of-the-line Zag team.
Yeah.
Or that, a reverse stat.
An interesting stat to throw out there to just kind of what could have happened. I mean, obviously, didn't it? It's all water under the bridge now. It's no big deal. But had UK won their conference tournament, every team that's represented in this state would have won their conference tournament.
Yep, which is
like
crazy.
Louisville won their Big East tournament. Western Kentucky won the Sun Belt. Murray State won the Ohio Valley. And if Kentucky would have won the Southeastern Conference, every conference that has a Kentucky team would have been won by the Kentucky school.
And that just goes to show that the basketball tradition in this area
is amazing.
Is so amazingly insane.
We may not got a pro team. We got a good college program.
I tell you
why
what,
we're a college town.
in most years, I guarantee you, UK and U of L could beat the weakest, probably 5 or 6 teams in the NBA.
I think they could.
I think Kentucky could beat
the
now.
That's true. The Bobcats.
So moving on down to the Midwest region, I think the only game that we all differ from, we'll go down here a little ways to the San Diego State, North Carolina State game. Me and Big B picked the upset here. We both like North Carolina State. And the Doc goes with the chalk here. So, Doc, we'll let you...
Nice racehorse.
That's another special entirely.
That'll be another special. A little bit later on down the line. Not too far away, actually.
No, a couple weeks.
But NC State, the third team in the Duke, North Carolina, NC State triangle, coming out of Raleigh, North Carolina. I think that they are going to fall to San Diego State University. And my reasoning for that one on the back was San Diego State beat a very good Arizona team, 61-57. A Cal team that was ranked at the time, 64-63. And a UNLV team that was also ranked at the time, 69-67. UNLV. And when you look at some of the teams that NC State had played, not a lot of them mirrored the talent that some of the teams, when it came to San Diego State University, played. Of course, SDSU has been on the rise for the last couple of years. Like Postmaster said, I'm going with the chalk on this one. I don't see an upset at this time. I think SDSU does get it done against North Carolina State.
So you're putting your $2 down to win $240.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm putting it down on the number 6.
And the only other game out of all the first round games that we see a little difference in the eye to eye, I believe. I'm sorry. There's 2 other games. I'm sorry. Florida, Virginia. Me and Big B take the chalk in this one. We
Take
go
the
with
Gators.
We go with the 9-5 favorite, and Doc goes with the 5-1 long shot.
Virginia played very stellar in their conference against the likes of Virginia State, Virginia Tech, Virginia State, to name a few, and to name a couple. And they got a very impressive win against a very strong Michigan team, not only beating, at the time, number 16th ranked Michigan, blowing them out of the water 70-58. And I think that that's something you have to look at. When you look at Florida, yes, they have some quality wins, but they didn't really come close against Kentucky until it got to the SEC tournament. And that's the big dog in that conference, of course, is Kentucky. They had a couple losses that bothered me a little bit. I think Billy Donovan can get it done. What it comes down here is, can you count on Irving Walker, and can you count on Kenny Boynton? And I think Kenny Boynton is shoddy at best. Not shoddy at best. When he is shooting from beyond the arc, he shoots well, but he had better wake up that day, look himself in the mirror, and say, I can hit threes today. And Irving Walker had better come out and say, hey, I'm not going to get 4 turnovers in 4 minutes like he has been known to do. And I think it comes down basically to those 2 key players, of course, for Florida, but those 2 key players are also players that can lose you the game at certain points in time.
I just think Billy Donovan is a better coach. They come from a better conference, I think, as far as competition level in the top. I mean, I know Virginia's in the ACC,
Tough
and
conference.
it's a very tough conference. But I mean, from the standpoint of the separation in the SEC is a little different than the ACC. Like in the SEC, there's really only like 4 top tier teams. You got Kentucky, Vandy, Florida, and maybe Mississippi State, who didn't make the tournament.
Right.
But I mean, as far as So and they're constantly among the elite top 3 in that conference every year, year in and year out. You're right, though. I think Kenny Boynton, he is going to have to nail some threes. The whole team, rather. I think if they get their magic number, even though it didn't work the other day against UK, but if they get their magic number of double-digit three-pointers of at least 12, which I think they have a very good opportunity in this game, I can see Florida picking up the victory.
Yeah, I think they pushed Kentucky as far as they could be pushed. I mean, Kentucky. There's no mistake here. Kentucky's the big dog in this whole thing, and the fact they narrowly beat Kentucky shows how good they are. So that's why I have Florida beating Virginia in that one.
All right, and the final game that we have a little difference of opinion. Me and the doctor take the chalk in New Mexico, and Big B, you originally said you were going with New Mexico, but you changed your mind. And you went with Long Beach State, so we'll let you have the floor. It was yours.
I mean, again, I have to chalk it up to the upset. Every time I watch the NCAA tournament year after year, it seems like 12-5 matchup is always one that people differentiate against, where they think the 12 has something going for them, and they can upset the 5, and that's pretty much why I picked Long Beach State to win this one. I think with the NCAA tournament, you're going to see a lot of upsets. Some of you're expecting, with some you're going to be shocked. I think this is one people are going to be shocked by.
Long Beach State is a good team. They played U of L close at U of L. U of L did pull out the win. I think they played Kentucky this year and played them rather close.
Yeah, they did.
They played Kentucky close. So, I mean, they played a very tough non-conference schedule. They obviously have to with the conference they're in. But they still won their conference tournament. They beat the Gauchos, I think, of UC Santa Barbara. Is that correct? Or are they in...
I want to say yes, but part of me is tugging, saying, "Doctor, no." But I do want to say yes. So.
But New Mexico is a very good school. Steve Alford, the coach down there, I believe.
New Mexico, Steve Alford, yeah.
Yeah, he's the coach there. He's doing a phenomenal job this year down there with that team. I mean, all they done is win. Seems like
all I do is win.
That's not till later.
Yeah, but. So I just don't see Long Beach State, even though they played a tough non-conference schedule, they hung close against Kentucky and U of L. I just don't see them beating the New Mexico here.
I don't see it happening either. I mean, it's just one of those things where I really don't feel I want to justify it, but I just got to go with the chalk. Justify it. Catch Justified on Tuesdays on FX.
What a cheap plug. What are you, Mick Foley?
Right here in Louisville, Kentucky.
It's something I like to do every year like Big B said, it's just something fun that I like to keep track of. I like to say give one 16 seed that I think will give their number 1 seed a little bit, and this stems from 5 years ago when UConn was down by 10 at half to their number 16 seed, and it literally took UConn to the last 4 minutes to wrap it up. And they wound up only beating their 16 seed by 10 points, and I think that was actually Lehigh. But the one that I see giving anyone trouble this year is actually Syracuse, because UNC Asheville is a good team, 24-9. They come from a weaker conference, but they play very well against the zone. And it's one of those things that when you look at a defense, all that they can do is play the zone for Syracuse. It is a very physical and a very tough zone, so I don't think Syracuse will lose by any means. But it'll be a fun matchup to see this, to see if what I say is right. If UNC can kind of keep it close for maybe the first 10 or 15 minutes, and then after that I think you'll probably see
I know some people fill out multiple brackets. Some people fill out a series bracket. They're going to take their time and look at these logistically and say, okay, I think this team does this well, blah, blah, blah. And then some people just fill out a bracket just for fun. It's like, oh, okay, I have UNC Asheville beating Syracuse, and I have this, and I have that. So.
Now, it's all based on if they win the play-in game. But with the games being played in Kentucky, at Louisville, in the Yum Center, I look for Western Kentucky to give UK a game for about a half.
I think you're right.
About a half.
I think you're right.
About a half. I think the first half, they can keep it close. Kentucky will pull away with about a 10, 12-point lead at halftime and then just pull away in the second half. But I think Western Kentucky, if they win their playing game, they're going to bring a lot of people from Bowling Green. Don't get me wrong. They're going to... Big Blue's gonna have a lot of people, but Big Red's gonna have a lot of people there too.
Because that'll be a nice little rematch from the 1958 championship game in which Western Kentucky beat Kentucky.
And we all remember that one, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, we all. I think you were about what 5 that year.
But
You were so close.
another.
One thing I wanted to mention is like, how is that UK playing in the Yum Center?
Yeah, that's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to hear it from anybody, especially UK, or especially Duke and North Carolina fans, because I'm one of the very few UK fans that actually likes North Carolina. I look at it as the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And of course, UK's eternal enemy is not U of L, but Duke.
Christian.
Hey, speaking of that, did you see the new Gatorade commercial?
Don't get me started. Don't get me started.
I knew that would. This is the anniversary.
Yeah, it is.
And it's awful fitting they put Duke in the same bracket as UK.
Well, let's look at this. UK's bracket it consists of Indiana and Duke. You can't tell me that wasn't for ratings.
Yeah, right.
But anyway, Duke and North Carolina playing at Greensboro, North Carolina.
Yep.
And neither Duke maybe deserves to play at home. North Carolina should have been the farthest away from their seed.
Well, they got a 1 seed, so they
got a 1.
They didn't win their conference.
Well, neither did Kentucky and neither did Syracuse.
Hey! Wait.
Kentucky won theirs outright.
Kentucky was the best team all year, and Syracuse was the best team
all
year until Kentucky took over.
But Kentucky winning your conference outright is more, and they talk about they cannot drive this home more enough to people that just follow sports casually. Winning your conference tournament is to get you an automatic bid.
Right. Yeah.
Winning your conference outright is more important because it is probably 16 plus games, whereas your conference tournament is like 5.
It's pretty bad when the head coach says he don't care about this tournament.
Yeah. I mean,
and Calipari said that. He said, I don't care.
Calipari always says that. He doesn't care about that tournament.
It means nothing to me.
Which is kind of bad, because you would think you'd want to win every game.
Yeah. He changes his tune when he gets down there and sees all the blue.
But you know what? As much as to say this, I think it's good that Kentucky lost. Because now they have less pressure on them to win outright. I guarantee you, they'd rather lose then than lose now.
And it's one of those things that it shows that they're not invulnerable.
Right, exactly.
And I do want to touch on this U of L Davidson game just because it's a local game. Mm-hmm. We all have U of L winning, but
you hesitantly.
I hesitantly had it. I think Davidson matches up really well. This is the Davidson team that actually beat Kansas earlier this year, and when you look at pure numbers now, Davidson does match up with U of L better at the 3, 4, and the 5 positions. They don't have as good of a point guard as Peyton Siva. I definitely think this is going to be a close game all the way through. And Jason Anderson and I can't remember his name, but the play-by-play person for Davidson also says everybody agrees, and I'm in the same line of thinking. I thought this yesterday when the tournament was announced. If Davidson can keep this game to a 5-point game all the way through, they have a very good chance going up at the very end and knocking out U of L. And I do want to stress that I do have U of L winning, but I'm putting an upset alert. I'm putting an upset alert on this game.
Upset alert.
Upset alert. Upset alert.
Upset alert. Upset alert.
Amateur hour.
So I guess with that. We should.
Well, let me address his thing about Davidson.
Okay.
I think Louisville has the opposite, where momentum is in their favor. Some teams it would probably hurt them, but in their favor. I didn't think they won the Big East tournament. I don't think you did either.
No, I didn't. I told you. Yeah. I was pleasantly surprised, but I was happy.
The one thing I was a big surprised about, where'd Peyton Siva come from?
Yeah.
He just played out of his mind.
Like I told him on the phone, I said, look, in all honest opinion, I didn't think we'd get past night 1.
Yeah.
I mean, just the way they've been playing.
When they played well against Marquette.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then when they played Notre Dame, I was like, okay, they're done.
They clobbered.
They forced Notre Dame to have 26 turnovers. Obviously, it's season high for Notre Dame. Then when Cincinnati beat Syracuse, so okay, maybe Louisville has a shot at winning this thing. And obviously, the defensive struggle that the Big East championship game was, Louisville comes out on top.
26 turnovers might be a school high.
That was crazy.
Really.
I mean, and
Notre Dame, that's all.
And it's like I told
not for anybody.
I felt like Fred Sanford when Louisville won that game. I was like, Elizabeth, this is a big one, Elizabeth. It was
yes, because our demographic knows exactly what Sanford and Son is.
You watch your tone.
You big dummy.
Big B, give us your Elite Eight.
Alright, my Elite Eight. From the South Conference, I have Kentucky and Baylor. No surprise there. For you, anyway. Jim, he has something different. We'll get into him later. The West, I have Louisville and Missouri. I'll go to the Midwest first because my East is going to probably surprise some people. Midwest, I have UNC and Georgetown.
Yep.
And my East, I have Syracuse and Florida State.
All right. How about you, sir?
Well, what do you got down in your Final Four?
Final Four, Kentucky and Missouri. And Final Four on the other side, I have UNC and Florida State.
And your championship?
Championship game, the Kentucky Wildcats take on the Florida State Seminoles, and the winner is the Kentucky Wildcats.
Postmaster, what do you got?
All right, for the Elite Eight, I have the Indiana Hoosiers. No disrespect.
Upset one time, upset again.
I have the Baylor Bears.
Baylor Bears.
I have the U of L Cardinals. I have the Missouri Tigers. I have the Syracuse Orange. I have the Ohio State Buckeyes. The North Carolina Tar Heels. And the Rock Chalk Jayhawks. Kansas Jayhawks.
Wow.
My Final Four is a little Big 12 heavy, to say the least.
Just a tad.
Wow, you got 25% of the Big 12.
I have Baylor and Missouri. And I have Syracuse and Kansas. I have an all Big 12 final, Missouri and Kansas, with the University of Missouri Tigers winning it all.
That's a different bracket.
Out of the South, I have the UK and Baylor matchup.
Good job.
Out of the West, I have Michigan State and Missouri.
Okay.
In the East, I have Syracuse and Ohio State. And in the Midwest, I set it up for North Carolina and Kansas. I have in my Final Four UK and Missouri and Ohio State and Kansas, setting up for a UK and Ohio State championship, and I go with Kentucky.
The reason why, just to go back a little bit, you're probably wondering why I picked Indiana.
No, I'm not wondering why. They beat them once, they could do it again.
Well,
it was at Bloomington.
Well, still, a win is a win.
Not really, but we'll get it.
Okay.
But the Vanderbilt win was in New Orleans.
Yeah.
You going to discount that?
No, it's...
They weren't full percent. They weren't.
They weren't. But go ahead.
But anyway, no.
Anyway.
The reason why I picked Indiana to beat Kentucky, I think Indiana has the game plan or the, they're like the kryptonite, I think. They have the game plan to beat Kentucky. They have to draw up the proper game plan. The way you beat Kentucky before yesterday, obviously they've only lost once.
It was Indiana.
What's the best way to beat? The only way you can beat Kentucky.
A last shot second against the clock.
Can you confuse Kentucky and not fouling?
You have to hit a crap ton of threes.
And they did that.
Who's a team on here that can hit a crap ton of threes? Indiana. Indiana
Florida State
can just light it up from three.
Okay, I'll let you finish.
No, I was just gonna say. I think if Indiana gets hot again, it's going to be on a neutral site, wherever it may Atlanta by that time, right?
Mm-hmm.
It'll be Atlanta. It'll be a neutral site. Indiana, another reason why Indiana hasn't been in the tournament in four or five years at least. Mm-hmm. They're going to want to go as far as they can go. And I mean, they're going to give Kentucky all they wanted. Obviously, even if Kentucky pulls the win here, obviously I won't be shocked.
No.
But I had to pick out of the box because 90% of the people are going to pick Kentucky to win it all, and I have to be different. I mean, I can't go along with everybody. Somebody's got to be different here. But my reasonings are, like I said, you got to be a team that can make a lot of threes and a team that shoots a lot of threes because you can't take it inside. Indiana shoots a lot of threes and they make a lot of threes. The reason why Kentucky lost yesterday had nothing to do with they're tired. I think the reason why Kentucky lost against Vanderbilt is they went away from their normal game plan. The University of Kentucky did something yesterday I haven't seen them really do all year. They shot 26 three-pointers. Mm-hmm. I've never, in all season, seen Kentucky jack up 26 threes. That was totally unlike a UK team I've seen all year, and I think that's what bit them yesterday. I think them jacking up all those threes is what cost them the win.
They shouldn't have shot that many threes, but I think another thing that contributed was the tired legs. I mean, the commentators the entire game were saying man, these two teams look tired, especially Kentucky. They thought Kentucky looked more tired, and that's because they got into a run. It was like a damn track and field match against Florida the day before, and to play less than 24 hours later against a Vanderbilt team that really didn't have to exert as much energy is a little bit taxing. You add that to the fact of everybody. It is just this holds true for everybody, not just Kentucky, not just Vanderbilt, but it holds true for U of L, for Duke, for North Carolina. It is just hard to beat a team 3 times in 1 year.
Right.
It just is, because people go back, they look at the tape. What did we do here? What did we do there? What did they do here? What did they do here? Kentucky beat Florida, and when they beat Florida, obviously there's nowhere else to go but to proceed on to Vandy. But when they beat Florida, I knew that our odds of beating Vandy were not very well, because that would be 2 teams we would have to beat 3 times in 1 year.
Right.
And it was just one of those things that I was not shocked at all that UK lost. I wasn't even mad.
I wasn't.
Right.
You said
yourself. You said yourself. He wasn't mad. I mean, I talked to him on the phone, and he was not mad at all. I mean, he's not upset. He wasn't disappointed.
The reason I had Kentucky beating Indiana, I was going back and forth seeing this one is well, you said the game plan in Indiana, they shot a lot of threes and they made a lot of threes. Well, if Kentucky, obviously they're going to look at the tape, obviously to prepare for this game. If Indiana comes through in the games they play, they're going to say, well, okay, last time we played these guys, we let them get all threes. They have to double team some people, make sure they cover all the 3-point. They have to change up their game plan.
If you watch the film on Kentucky games all year long, most teams, that is their game plan, to shoot a lot of threes. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times the teams do shoot a lot of threes. They just don't make them.
Right.
So, I mean, that is their one weakness. They have trouble defending the 3. I mean, Calipari said it a lot. He said it. He said that's our biggest problem. We have trouble defending the 3-point line.
Right.
And it's one of those things that if Kentucky plays Indiana again, which once again I wouldn't be surprised if VCU beat Indiana, but it's one of those things that if VCU goes on, at least I think Wichita State and VCU is going to give Indiana trouble.
Absolutely
right.
But if in the event Indiana does beat them, they would more than likely play Kentucky.
Yeah.
I think it does go through to they beat at home 1 point by 1 point. Indiana beat Kentucky, and in an overall well officiated match, there was definitely, and because I know we talked about it, there were definitely some calls that didn't make sense. You have to take all of that into consideration. When playing on a neutral court, it is a lot different than playing either at home or away. It's not. It is that. It's neutral court, and when you look at this, the game plan would be to shoot threes. They would definitely be defending them more, and you daggone right, if the circumstances were the same exact thing, they would foul again. But I just don't see Indiana getting the better of Kentucky.
Yeah, either.
I wouldn't discount it, but
I don't see
it's one of those things you've always got to say an upset could happen.
Okay, here's a question.
Yeah.
I want to pose out to you all. And let's take all team affiliation aside.
Okay.
To the side. Give me your honest answer, like from a professional standpoint. 1 out of 10. 10 being the greatest, 1 being the lowest.
Right.
1 out of 10, Kentucky loses and doesn't win the national title. Honest opinion.
So 10 would be
10 being
they're likely going to win.
No,
10 being
they're gonna lose.
They'll lose along the way.
They'll lose along the way. 1 being no way in hell they're gonna win it all. It's regardless. There's nobody beating them in the tournament. Nobody.
I give it about a 3, and I'll tell you why. I think when I look at this, there's only a couple teams that I think can give UK a run. Obviously Indiana, because I would be completely ignorant not to acknowledge the fact that they did in fact beat Kentucky earlier this year. I'm not too worried about Duke, believe it or not. I don't think.
I don't see Duke getting that.
I'm not either. I don't like Duke. I think they're overrated.
I have Duke losing to Notre Dame.
I think, like I said, I have Duke losing to Baylor in the Sweet 16. The other team that I could see possibly giving Kentucky trouble is Missouri.
Yeah.
And then also Syracuse.
Yeah.
I can see Syracuse if they make it.
Like
I said, I think it's going to be Ohio State. Ohio State really just has Jared Sullinger to work with, and Anthony Davis is more than enough to team up on to guard Jared Sullinger.
Yeah,
so I don't think Ohio State would give them a problem. The 3 teams that I do think, if it came down to it, Syracuse from the opposite end of the bracket, Missouri, and IU. I think those are the teams.
For me, I have to go a little bit higher. I'd go like a 4 or 5. Even though I do have Kentucky winning, look at these games they'd have to play. And this is how my bracket is. There could be different, but I think Kentucky's win the first game. Then they got to play UConn, then Indiana. Then for me, they have Baylor, then Missouri. Those are really tough games.
Right. It's no easy road to get there. It's not an easy road.
It's not an easy road. None of these teams I have as an easy road. So I do have Kentucky winning the whole thing, but they could easily lose any of those games. UConn, I don't think they'll lose to UConn. I don't think UConn's as strong as they were last year.
No,
but Indiana, Baylor, Missouri, they're really 3 tough teams.
It was really funny because as they were unveiling this bracket yesterday, everybody, U of L fans and Kentucky fans alike, were like, oh my God, Kentucky has such a hard route. And then they started unveiling the other regions, and after that, no one's really got a cakewalk to the Final Four. No. But if I were to say out of them all, UVK does have the easiest route. It's very tough, but it's a very tough bracket all the way around. Yeah. Nobody really has a clear route, unlike last year where Duke was the last number 1 seed in, but they got easily the easiest route to the Final Four for whatever reason.
I'd say about a 4. I agree with you. I mean, they do have a tough way to get there. I mean, obviously, like I said, they could potentially have to go through UConn, Indiana, Baylor, Duke maybe, Missouri. So, I mean, those are no slouch teams. No. Those are all top 20 teams in there that they would have to go through to get there. And, I mean, any team can have an off night.
Right, exactly.
I mean, that's why they play the game. I mean, honestly, who would have thought UConn would have won 12 in a row or whatever it was last year? Yeah, that just goes to show you, when you're hot, you're hot. I mean, it's all a matter of getting hot at the right time. And we'll see. I mean, like I said, I got them losing to Indiana. They're liable to go all the way. You all haven't won it all, which is very possible. Yeah. They're the favorite. The number 1 overall seed. When is the last time the number 1 overall seed won the tournament? Do you know?
2002. It was.
That might have been UConn.
No, it was Kansas.
Is that the last time overall?
Yeah, it might have been.
But no, I mean, so out of the 4 1 seeds, who loses first? Who's the first one to take a loss? If you had to, looking at your bracket, who would you think would lose out of the 4 1 seeds?
I had Michigan State.
That's who I had. Michigan State. I think Louisville could beat Michigan State. People think I'm crazy, but I think Louisville.
It's really funny because if you look at my bracket, that's the one thing that you see. Yeah. I have all the number 1 seeds losing in the Elite 8, except for Kentucky.
Well, okay, so throwing it out there, if you had to pick one to lose first.
To lose first, I would probably say Michigan State. Although 1999, 2000, 2001, Tom Izzo had a number 1 seed Michigan State for 3 years in a row. Went to the Final Four 2 out of those 3 years.
Right.
So
not bad numbers.
What he does when he has a number 1 seed is amazing. And I think Tom Izzo, you're looking at a coach who is probably the best coach in the NCAA because he
is very good.
He constantly takes teams. See, Calipari, he gets these top recruits. He gets the top recruits, so he has good schools, and he has good teams. Tom Izzo takes a recruiting class 17, 18, 19, 20th ranked in the nation and turns them into a top 10 team by the end of every year.
Right. You know what I love about Tom Crean, too, and what I love about Michigan State, for that matter?
Tom Izzo.
Tom Izzo. Well, Tom Izzo, I said Tom Crean.
Yeah, you said
Tom Crean. Sorry. But they schedule a beast. Murderer. I I mean,
they have a top 10 SOS every year. It's ridiculous.
Not only do they play in the Big Ten, but their non-conference schedule. I mean, this year it was like Duke
in the non-conference
schedule. It was like Duke and I think they might have played North Carolina. I think they played Kansas. I think they played UConn.
They did not play UConn.
But they played a very, very tough schedule. Yeah. And they do that every year. Yeah. And everybody at the beginning is like, oh, Michigan State's lost like 4 games early. But at the end of the year, when it all matters, they're there every year, like clockwork. He does that for a reason. And they take their lumps early, but at the end of the year, you best be darned then Michigan State's going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So.
Michigan, like I said, in my eyes, I just don't see a coach better than Tom Izzo in the NCAA.
And I guess a final question to throw out there. If you're looking at this bracket, out of all the 68 teams that are in this tournament, outside of the top 4 seeds, none of the top 4 seeds, give me a team that you could see potentially making it to the Final Four that's seeded 5 or worse.
I got nothing on that one.
I think out of all of them, potentially, it's going to come out of this region. Louisville, Kentucky game, it's going to come out between Wichita State and VCU. I think Wichita State and VCU both have the ingredients there to go to the Final Four or better. I definitely think that, like I said, VCU returns its core team that got them there last year, and Wichita State is just very good.
Are you perplexed?
No, I got one.
Go ahead.
I can potentially see if Florida gets hot. Florida, if they get hot.
Florida? That's a good pick. I can see that.
I don't, but I'm saying.
Right. I think a team that could potentially do it that's ranked a little, ranked 5th is Vanderbilt.
If they get hot.
If they get hot, I mean, if they could easily do what UConn did last year.
Yeah, any one of these teams.
Any team that won, I mean, Louisville could. I mean, I'm not discounting that. I mean,
Wouldn't that be nice?
But I'm just saying, I think they could ride the momentum, and they could fall on their face and lose to Harvard. I mean, You never know. I mean, that's why they play the game, and we can fill these brackets out all day and night.
Come 100 times, plus something different.
And come up with, like you said, we can even sit here and flip a coin.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like, Wichita State VCU, flip a coin, heads or tails.
On a lot of these games, you can flip a coin. This is what makes it fun to me.
Yeah, this is fun.
I mean, the speculating and it's like you're looking at one big racing farm on Derby Day.
Yeah,
You got 68 horses to choose from.
That's a lot of horses.
And you're trying to narrow it down to the best 4, and you're like, oh, good God.
Who do you have in race 1? Who do you have?
Do I have Racing Red or Murphy's Choice? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy.
Speaking of which, and we'll probably cover this a little bit more on the special, but since we are going with the racehorsing theme in this, Zinyana did give birth to her Bernardini colt. Very healthy
Kind of
birth.
off topic.
That's good to know.
Very off topic.
Before we close the show here, I want to go over our Final Four real quick and see what we have different before we finish off. My first team I have in the South side is Kentucky. Who do you have?
I have Baylor.
You have Kentucky.
Kentucky.
What'd you go with Baylor?
What's that?
Why did you pick Baylor?
Well, I had IU beating Kentucky. I had Baylor beating Duke in the Sweet 16 to make it to the Elite Eight. I think Baylor's a very good team. They've beaten Kansas. They've beaten Missouri. They've been up there all year long. They're battle tested, and I just think I can see them making it to the Final Four.
Okay. Let's see. Bottom West. I have Louisville, Missouri. What do you have?
I have Louisville,
What
Missouri.
do you have?
Missouri.
He has Missouri.
You have Louisville, Missouri.
No, you
Michigan
said
State.
Final
Oh,
Four.
no, I said Final
You
Four.
said
Yeah,
I have
Missouri.
Missouri.
Yeah, we've already gone over the final.
Okay,
Yeah.
Missouri. Midwest, I have UNC.
I have Kansas.
I have Kansas.
I think UNC, their number 1 seed, even though they did lose to Florida State in the ACC championship, I think UNC's
He
been the one.
thinks Purdue's going to beat Kansas back in round 2.
It's crazy.
Yeah, he is crazy.
You know.
He needs his head check for that.
But
one.
I think
that's
UNC.
okay.
I think UNC can make it the Final Four. And then this East is one I want to talk about. East, you have Syracuse.
I have
Who do
Syracuse.
you
I have
have?
Ohio State.
I have Florida State. I think Florida
They're all
State.
different,
I think
yeah.
Florida State is a team people need to watch out for. Beating UNC twice, beating Duke. Florida State is a hot team, and I think they're a 3 seed for a reason. I think Florida State. I have Florida. Like I said, I have Florida State in the finals against Kentucky. I think Florida State's gonna be a dangerous team, or it could be like a couple years ago when I filled out a bracket. Oregon was a hot team. They lost second round. I ripped my bracket up into a million pieces. So.
All right, well, that's our NCAA March Madness Special.
And that PostMaster is from Alabama.
And we will keep you posted on any interesting news, developments, all the buzzer beaters that are likely to happen this time of the year.
And all the upset alert,
Yeah.
upset, red alert.
This will be your headquarters, your ground zero.
Our headquarters, as you can say.
For
Oh, watch it with the pen there, fella.
thank you for watching
thank you
the
for watching.
Triple Threat Talk special.
Just to let you know, guys, this week on the show, we're going to discuss the issues about Peyton Manning. Don't know if there's any more issues about Bounty Gate, but I'm sure there are some out there. Discuss.
Actually, Sean Payton and the owner of the Saints met with Roger Goodell today, so we'll probably have something on the show.
Yeah, that, and also, of course, college basketball updates, anything tennis or any wrestling sport, anything we usually
And we'll talk about going left!
And interesting developments on Full Metal Jousting this week, so you're going to be talking about that. NHRA returns for a little bit of a
Gator Nationals.
So look forward to the episode 41 this week. So if you want to like us on Facebook, you can like us on Facebook at facebook.com/triplethreattalk. You can follow us on Twitter at triplethreattalk. And you can send any comment or question you have at triplethreattalk@yahoo.com. So Triple Threat Talk, this is Big B.
This is PostMaster Jones.
And this is the Doctor.
See everybody, let the madness begin.